Okay, what we're going to look at now is a pivot table. So this is probably going to be the most commonly used feature out of everything I've shown you that you'll use if you're analyzing data. So what a pivot table does, it allows you to pivot the data you're looking at between different fields to be able to view it from different perspectives. So I've just quickly added this category column into this little data set I initially had. So in the solution here, we don't have that as yet, but I thought I'll add another column just to show you how pivot tables can pivot different data. So what we wanted to do was be able to return this as a pivot table in this format. But what I'll do, I'll quickly show you how to create a pivot table. So all you do, and it could be a lot more data than what I'm showing you here, it could be an entire worksheet, but you're going to highlight your data that you want to pivot. All the columns have to have a heading. And if there's no heading, it'll give you an error. And you go to Insert, and you go here to Pivot Table. Here, it tells you the range. You can see that is the correct data range that I'm happy with. Do you want it in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet? I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put it in this worksheet, and you can choose where. So I'm just going to put it here. And you can add this to a data model. We can touch on that in future courses. You can click OK, and here it's built a little section for our pivot table. And what we can do now, you can see all the headings are here under pivot table fields, and you have options for filters, columns, rows, and values. So what we can do, we can now drag and drop whatever we want to see. So if we wanted to recreate this here, we would take product ID, put it in the filter. We would take the product name and put it in rows. And we would take the sum of the total and put it there. So there you can see we've built that exact little pivot table. But now what if we wanted to add category into this? Now see, it hasn't included my category. I wonder why. Grab this thing again. Just want to have a quick look. Let's refresh. There we go. Just didn't refresh. There we've got the category. So we could put the category in the filter. And now you could very easily say, I only want to see the inside furniture, and it will filter the pivot table by inside. Or you could do outside. Or you might decide that you want your category at the bottom here, and you want the product name at the top, and you're only looking at beds. You can see beds are only inside, but chairs we have inside and outside. Or we haven't put any columns in, you might put product name as a column and have inside and outside. So you can pivot the data different ways. You might decide that you want the product name as a row and the category as a column. So this is what is meant by a pivot table. You can pivot the data different ways very, very easily. You can also add multiple aggregations. So here you can have the total, you can have the price, and it'll show you for each of the categories. You can go in and you can filter things on the pivot table itself. So there I went into the column labels and I deselected inside. And you can also go in to these options here, into the value field settings, and you might not want the sum, you might want the count or an average. So if I put average, that's now created the average of the total. So they're quite versatile, and it is quite easy to slice and dice the data. Now, one of the nicest things is that you might have a really big table here, and you want to slice and dice the data. You lay it out and you look, okay, I want to look at outside, desks. Something doesn't look right there. I want to just look at the data for this. If you double click on any of the totals, it'll bring up a new sheet with the data behind that total. So here you can see, all right, that was a quantity of 3, it was outside, etc. We can go and delete that because we don't want a lot of unnecessary sheets. Or you might say, I want to go look at what makes up this average. You can double click on that. That average is made up of these 3 entries here. So that's what a pivot table is. I will do a lot more on pivot tables in the future because it's a topic on its own, but this is just an introductory playlist to get you understanding what these different items are. So that is what a pivot table is, and that is how you can play around and pivot your data different ways. The solution is here. Again, with that, I didn't have the category included.